shoes compared to boots. Some people you'll see wear boots, some people you'll see wear trail runners, and then anything in between. Some people I saw, one guy wearing cowboy boots. I saw some barefoot prints, some people wearing Crocs, some people wearing sandals. It all depends on what you want to hike in, what's comfortable on your feet. I started out in boots. I realized I thought they were like 2 years old, but I think they were about 4 years old before I started. So I knew they didn't have much life in them. But I wanted to start in it because it was winter. There was snow. They were waterproof. And they were waterproof all the way up until halfway through the Smokies when we just got so much moisture. I find I really enjoyed boots for the winter. Now when it was summer, spring, and all that, I really enjoyed trail runners. They were always wet. They got wet really easily, but they're a little bit more comfortable for me. Is a thru hike difficult? That's just a long answer, but the short answer is yes, it's very difficult. It plays a toll on your mind, it plays a toll on your body, it plays a toll on everything. So the answer is yes. Did I hike solo? This is kind of a complicated question or answer. So the first, say, 100 miles, I hiked with my sister, one in front of each other, the whole way. After the 100 miles, I hiked solo until, I would say, the Smokies, when I ran into the lady who gave me my name. I hiked with her for about 2 days. After that, the last part of the Smokies, the last couple days, 2 days I think it was, I met Two Ball, which is another guy I hiked with. And I hiked with him off and on for quite a while. And we're like in at least eye distance, if not like a little further. Then we stopped hiking together, and then I hiked by myself again. So I just kept going back and forth. Then when I started hiking with Amazon, it started off like I would just hike by myself during the day, would meet at camp at night, or I would hike by myself in the morning, we meet at lunch because he was a lot faster than me, and then we hiked the rest of the way, usually to wherever. Or and then it wasn't until probably halfway through the Whites that we actually started hiking within like eyesight of each other, or not too far. And then we hiked like that till the end. So half the time I was a solo hiker, half the time I was hiking with other people. Sometimes you would hike with somebody for a few minutes and then back away, have a conversation for like 30 minutes, and then you're gone. So it just kept going back and forth. Did I have any injuries? Yes, my knees locked up. I had an injury in my foot. I don't know what it was, but every time I put pressure on it, I get shooting pain. Every time I hit a rock, I mean, it would pretty much take the wind out of me. It was really difficult to get my shoe off because the pain was so great. It felt like I was just like breaking my bones. So I don't know if I had a fracture or what. That happened to me 2 to 3 different times. I kind of rested after that and it healed. I also had a lot of bruises. I fell so many times. Luckily only about 2 of them caused, a lot of pain. I burnt myself once, but it wasn't like, I didn't have any scars or anything. I just had my pot of hot water and it spilled all over my lap. I got that cleaned up before I had any issues. Let's see. I also had an issue with my shoulder. I think it was in the Whites when you're doing a lot of scooting down for me because of my knees. I couldn't walk down hills. I had to sit on my butt a lot and do like butt scoots down, and I used a lot of my shoulder for a lot of the weight, and I had an issue where it was just a constant pain in my shoulder, and it got worse when I moved it. That eventually healed and went away too. Okay, back to the other question, best and worst thing about hiking the AT. I think I answered that when it was best and worst part of trail. Which another question I got often was, what was my favorite part of the trail? And I'd have to say the inner part of the Smokies, not the ends. And the Roan Highlands, and maybe Franconia Ridge. Those were my top 3. I think the lakes in Maine were very pretty too, but my top 3 would have to be those 3. Worst and best day on trail. I don't really have a best day on trail. There were so many, but I know clearly the worst day on trail because I wrote it down in the book. Isn't it funny how we remember the worst things? So I wrote it down here. So this is what happened the very worst day of trail. I remember I wrote in the book, I don't want to hike anymore. I'm so through with this. I want to go home. So the day before we were supposed to go, I don't know how many miles. We didn't make it. Well, I didn't make it, I was done for the day. So I was hiking with Amazon at the time. We stopped by this creek and set up camp. And the night, it downpoured. Every seam in my tent failed. Water was dripping on my face all night. I was moving all night, trying to keep everything dry. Everything got soaked. I did not sleep very well that night. I got up early. It was still a little drizzly. Walked across this raging stream. It wasn't that big, but it was a lot of water. And then the trail was just muddy goo all the way. Finally, when stuff dried out, I had to cross this beaver bog, and there were like these, if you go down into the bog, it's probably maybe up to my high waist, and I was stepping on these logs, and the logs just poof, and then I came out of there with soaking wet socks, and then I started hiking up this hill. I almost stepped on this rattlesnake. It took me forever to get around it. And then I ran into the best trail magic I've ever had. Thanks, Jinx Hikes, for that. It was like double trail magic from her, and it was great. And then I had, I think, like 6 or 8 more miles to go in my day. So this was a 20-mile day. So I'm doing the last miles, and after that great trail magic, I probably would not have made it all the way. But, that's where I also met Hawk, which is a guy who's hiked, like, I don't know if this is 6th, 7th, 8th time hiking the AT through hiking. That was pretty cool. So I'm hiking, and every joint in my body is on fire, and my muscles are screaming, and I was just in so much pain. I finally get to the shelter. It was really far down. The privy was really high, like close to the trail, and then you have to go all the way down to the shelter. I get down to the shelter. It's like a double-decker shelter, but the top was really hard to get up, and I was like, I'm not climbing up there. It's dark. I have this heavy pack. And this is a big no-no, but there was a guy that took over the shelter with his hammock. And he just, like, pretty much took over everything. And I'm like, I've got to sleep somewhere. So I just shimmied in the corner so I wouldn't be under him and just slept. And he went on about, like, hiking for 4 miles, and he's just bushed. Which, that is a long distance if you're used to it, but, after a 20-mile day, and I was having a rough day, I just didn't want to really hear it, and he just kept talking, and I just didn't want to talk. I wanted just to eat and go to sleep and have room in the shelter. Then all night I heard coyotes, which wasn't a big deal, but he had this, like, hard tarp that he used as a blanket, and he just kept moving all night, so it was crinkling, and I had the worst sleep that night than I did the night before. And then in the middle of the night, then I thought I had a hole in my pad, because my pad, I woke up on the ground, and I thought, great, now that's broken. And then, I forgot, the water, after going up the privy, to get to the water, you have to go back up the trail, go down a different trail down the other side to get water. So then I had to go do that, come back, and I was just done. But you know what? I made it to Katahdin. Alright, last day on trail. So I mentioned earlier that I went up to Katahdin on the 12th, came down on the 13th. So we didn't go up to Katahdin. We did like most people do like, stay at the Birches and go up. So that's maybe like a 5-6 mile hike up. I don't remember the mileage, but we did 20 26, 27 miles that day, very last day. We started back in the 100-mile wilderness, went all the way to Katahdin, went up Katahdin, came down Katahdin. Nobody talks about coming back down Katahdin. And we didn't get up to the sign until sunset, which was gorgeous. We had to do that because there was rain in the forecast for the following days. And one thing we knew we didn't want to do was hike in the rain up Katahdin. It gets a little sketchy at one part. It's like you're climbing over these huge rocks and you're on these cliffs, and it's I would not want to do that in the snow, in the rain, anything like that. So we had the perfect weather for that. It was gorgeous. We had the sign all to ourselves. We only saw one other person up there when she was going down the other way when we were coming up. So we went up the Hunt Trail, which is really hard, and it's longer than the other trail we took down, and that's the AT. So when you get to the AT, you can touch the sign, you're done with the AT. You can go back down the AT, you can go down any other trail. We went down the A-Ball Trail, so it's a shorter trail, but it's steeper, and it's an old rock slide. So you're going down this rock slide for a while, and everything's fine, whatever. And it's getting dark, sun's setting, you can see the moon coming out, the weather's perfect, have our headlamps on. There is a reroute in the trail because the bottom part is too dangerous now to go down. Somehow we missed the reroute. We saw there's a sign that says stay on trail, and it has an arrow. What we thought was stay on trail is in the middle of this huge trail, rock slides. So we were on sort of this side, so we just scooted over to this side. We didn't see that it made a sharp right turn through those trees over there. And so we just kept going down, and we saw headlamps behind us. After a while, we're like, oh, people came up behind us, and they're coming down. Eventually they disappeared, but I could still hear them. I'm like, something's off. We're going down further. It's taken forever because the trail is super loose. You're on your butt the whole time. It's just falling out from underneath you. It's little rocks now instead of big rocks, and you're just kind of, what was that? You're just kind of slipping down this mountain, and I'm like, something's not right. But we kept seeing blazes go down because that's the way the old trail went, and I guess there's old blazes. So, we pull up, got hooks, and find out we're a little bit off trail. So we were going to try to bushwhack back on trail. Well, the bushes, I don't know if you've ever been on Katahdin, they'll rip you to shreds. They're very aggressive bushes. So we couldn't do that. So we had to hike all the way back up and then find the trail, get on the trail, and then hike back down. And that little time took so long that we didn't get down off Katahdin until I think it was about 4 a.m. So we started that morning before sunrise, and we didn't finish till the next day till 4 a.m. Just because that section of trail was so dangerous that it took us so long just to go such a short distance. We sped up once we got back onto the other trail. We did stop for a 30-minute nap, and then we got down safely. So we touched a sign on the 12th, got down at the bottom of the 13th. All right, I hope I answered all your questions. Like I said, I'm going to make some separate gear videos. I already did kitchen gear, so I'm going to probably do my big 3, which I've already filmed all that. I sat in a pile of poop during that, and I'm going to refilm it. And then I think I'm going to eventually do one about for you who want to hike, if you want to plan a thru hike, and I'll just go through some things about planning your thru hike. All right, until the next video, see ya.